Hello everyone, GR10 Desert Gold. Well, today is Mead Day. We're making mead. Touch on a couple other things to bring you up to speed. The pinter's doing well. Actually, tomorrow we're going to pull the dock off of that and put the pinter in the conditioning stage, which will be in the middle fridge out there in the backyard. And I finally got in the remaining parts I needed to complete this test, and that is the Mead, which is a nutrient, and the extra packets I actually ran out of the Voss yeast, so I got a new batch in. So that's what's going on in here. Since honey is rich in sugars but almost barren in nutrients, yeast has a hard time propagating in an environment like that, even with all the sugars. So that's why we're doing a yeast starter, which it's fun because I built that about 10 years ago when I was doing the 5-gallon brews, and you know me, I like high ABVs, and if you're going to do strong alcohol content, you're going to need strong yeast. And at that time, I don't believe that this Kuvik was around at that time, so you had to give it a boost with most yeast if you were going to do, like I said, a strong alcohol content. Anything above 7%, it's advisable to at least do it. And basically all it is in this case, I took some DME, and it's highly fermentable, obviously, and put a pinch of this into it. And what that does is it provides organic nitrogen, which is devoid in honey meads, because honey doesn't have any of the minerals, the nitrogens, or the sterols, or the fatty acids and vitamins and minerals that this is all providing. So by putting that in, you're giving it the nutrients it needs to survive and propagate in a honey-rich environment. So basically it's a stir plate that I built, and obviously what it's doing is it's circulating the yeast in the wort, and it's also oxygenating it so that it can propagate, and also it will provide room for more yeast cells to grow. And normally when you do something like this, you can actually double the number of active yeast cells by doing a good starter. I started this a while ago, so we're going to let it run a little longer. Normally you want to run it for 24 to 48 hours. I don't have the patience for that. So I got it brewing or fermenting right now, and from what I can smell and the gases coming through the cork, it's having no problems. So I'm gonna let it run, like I said, for another couple hours. I've got the honey outside sunbathing in our wonderful 112 degrees right now, so it'll be easier to pour, and then we're just gonna put it all together and we'll go from there. Okay, I showed you this before. This is the Kirkland raw honey, and it's unfiltered, so it's all the good stuff in it. The few minutes in the sun outside turn this into easily being poured as if you had it in a microwave, and it helps keep everything moving. So I'm putting in the full 3 pounds of honey. I like that, man. It's like as if I had it in a microwave for who knows how long. Anyway, that's in there. Honey's in there. I get a kick out of this this mead. It's one of the simplest recipes that dates back for centuries, and it's so simple. It's water, honey, and yeast. Basically, that's what it was, and still is for the most part. It's nice not to have to worry about dry hopping or even hopping, putting hops in and all other additives that you do with beers to make them special. This is just going to be honey, water, and yeast. So now I've got that in there. We're going to let this ferment a little bit more, and then we'll pour that in, add the water, and close her up. All right, so what I've done is added some hot water to the honey to keep it pliable, if you will, or dissolved actually. So I've got about almost a half a keg right now. So what we're going to do, we're going to put a growler plug on it for right now. Since the entry into this cask is so small, you have to mix it the old-fashioned way. At my age, oh my, I'm getting my exercise, burning carbs so that I make room for more beer. All right, it's good and mixed. It's going to have plenty of oxygen in there to grow and be healthy, and that's what we're looking for. So what we're going to do now, I still looking at the stir plate and wanting to wait a little bit further before I pitch this into there and seal her up for fermenting. As in the interim, I want to remind you I'm going to be using the spinning valve. In this case, because it's a mead and because of the chemistry of what's going on with the honey and the yeast, what we're going to do is we're going to leave this wide open and let it vent like it would, like a bubbler or something like that. Just let it vent wide open. And the reason for that is if we put this under pressure too soon with the cubic yeast, it will create a situation where the fermenting of the yeast at this point is giving off sulfurs that if you tighten this thing up and put too much pressure on it, it's going to keep the sulfurs in there, and you're going to get some weird flavors. So if we leave this open and leave it open for about 24 hours, you can let it vent all that sulfur, and it will fill the void or the headspace with CO2, which is another benefit, and that way it keeps it oxygen free from that point on. So we're gonna let this run in circles for a little bit longer, and then we'll put it all together finally, and we'll be done. Okay, we're getting close to the finish line here. The yeast starter is going to be pitched, and we're going to close it up and set the spunding valve to wide open and let it do its thing. All right, so let's shut this off. I built this thing for $5. Can't beat that. Oh, I just forgot something. Okay, one thing that, I'm glad I thought of it actually. The one thing that you want to remember when you take your yeast starter off your stir plate is to retrieve the magnetic stir rod in there. Otherwise you'll wind up dumping it in your brew, and that becomes a pain in the ass. The easiest way I found out of doing this is to put a magnet on the outside and walk it up the sidewall of the flask. This saves you from having to fish it out of a 1 gallon or 2 gallon, or you don't want to have it happen in a 5 gallon, I'll tell you that. Anyway, now we can pour it. Well, the yeast has been pitched. The other thing you want to really remember is that although this is a 1 gallon keg, since we're going to be doing pressure fermentation, we cannot fill it to the 1 gallon mark. You have to leave about a 20% headroom space as the foam, gets more aggressive. So I better check and make sure that we're not there. That looks perfect. Yeah, there's plenty of headroom in there. I might have gone to about 20, maybe 25%, but so now we put the floating filter in. Oh, just so I don't forget, while I was adding the water, I did take a water temperature after I got to the point where I wanted to stop, and it is still at about 110 degrees inside, so that's beautiful for a cubic Voss yeast. So now this is tightened, and we're gonna put the spunding valve on. It's wide open, and that will go right here. And by tomorrow we should be hearing hissing out of that. Okay, so it's been 24 hours since I pitched the yeast on this mead, and now the next step is I need to add 3 grams of the Fermenting that I mentioned in the first part of the video. This is a energizer food for yeast. It is all the things that the honey is devoid of or missing. It's got the minerals, the organic nitrogen, vitamin B complex, fatty acids, minerals. It's even got it's made from dead yeast husks, which is where some of the fatty acid is coming from. So we're going to add 3 grams of this to the honey, and that's why I also left this wide open so there's no pressure in it, because you can't dump that in there with a bunch of pressure. So we're going to take off the gas ball lock, open this up. Always check to make sure that everything is on board. There is no pressure, obviously, but you always got to be careful with pressure units, so double check. I'm going to remove this, and we're going to unscrew the ball lock lid. And we are just going to dissolve 3 grams in. Close it back up. And now the good stuff starts. I'm going to give it about an hour's worth of wide open again, just to let, well, actually I'm going to give this a little tussle. Get everybody talking to each other, being friendly, you know, that kind of stuff. Put the ball lock back on. Oh yeah. I don't know if you heard that, but it's definitely got some pressure. So I want to let it vent some more, because I opened it up and that let the CO2 that was in there on the head space escape. So I'm going to let it repopulate the head space, and then I'm going to crank this thing all the way close to 15 psi. The yeast should be strong enough to take the pressure. I might be more gentle and maybe work my way up to 15 to give it extra time to get ready for that kind of stuff. But as I mentioned, I also have the digital version on the way, and if it gets here within the next couple of days, I'm going to pull this gauge off and put the 90 in, and we will crank her up to about 30 psi. If it doesn't come, oh, I can smell the yeast coming out of there. It's kind of cool. I like it because it lets you know that stuff's going on inside. But if it doesn't arrive in time, I'm just going to have it at 15 psi and then cold crash it and have it chilled for a while so it can absorb as much CO2 at that psi that it can take in. And we should be probably ready to taste this stuff in about 5 days. We'll see how that goes. Let's keep on trucking. So it's been almost a week since we put the mead together, and I put the spunding valve on to pressurize the fermentation, and ever since that point it's been pegged at 15 psi, which is as high as this gauge will go. I had tried to order, or I did order, and was hoping that it would arrive. I ordered the 90 PSI. This is the digital gauge, the only one that is in the series. These go 15 all the way up to 150 different, 150 PSI, depending on the gauge you get. I chose this one because for me it's a good middle ground. I'm not going to be doing anything with 150 PSI or even 60 for that matter. I figured that this will go up to 90, and the other big factor is that this is, like I said, the only digital gauge, and all of the others are analogs, and this is going to be a little easier for me to read with my travel vision at my age, but we'll see. The plan now is to pull the spunding valve off, which I'm going to do right now. And we're going to cold crash this, like I said, for a day, and then it'll be taste testing time for the Mead. Let's see how it turns out. Okay, today's the big day. We're going to see if we succeeded or failed with our Mead experiment. Our buddy is chilling in this fridge. I had to bring it out here because the double ball lock heads that the mini kegs use, so when you have it on top of the keg, it makes it taller than any of the fridges in my house can handle. So we're going to go with it out here. And let's see. There's the big event. These little picnic faucets come in handy sometimes. Oh yeah, I'd say that there's a little carbonation in that. Looks like the pressure fermentation worked out perfectly. Look how fine the bubbles are. It's almost like cream or something. Wow. Wow. This is truly amazing. I really didn't know what to expect, but I was hoping it would be at least good. This came in at 14.5% ABV. Very mellow, but honey-forward flavor profile. It is a little sweet, but that's what I wanted. You can use a different, use a wine yeast that'll make it a lot drier, but I just wanted for the first time to see how this all would come together. Ah, this is good. Shite. And the bubbles are so fine, it gives it a sparkling mouthfeel. It's not one of those like forced carbonated beer heads that you get. This is a mild, sparkling, letting you know there's carbonation there, but not overpowering it. Well, I call this a win, okay? I think the next one I'm gonna try is a black cherry mead. They call it Viking's blood, and it becomes a mellow if you put a fruit in it. So, but I'm gonna keep it as a Viking blood mead. Outstanding. Oh, I'm jazzed.